Hey everybody, Dean Jackson, Stuart Bell here in World Headquarters, Winter Haven, Florida. Excited. I want to, you're here, and I wanted to have this conversation because today is November 2nd, right? And I don't know if you know this or have heard of this tradition of NaNoWriMo. Do you know what that stands for?
I do. National, well, I'll trip over the
National Novel Writing Month.
Yeah.
And all around the world, there are people who all year build up to this month where the idea is that you start writing on midnight 01 on November 1st, and you have to stop writing at 11:59 on November 30th. And there's people all over the world get involved in this process. And the thing that is, and everybody builds up to this moment. And do you know or wonder what the drop-off rate is by November 2nd? The number of people. The idea is that you're supposed to write 1,600 words a day.
Every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you know what the drop-off is of people who fall behind already on November 2nd?
I haven't seen the numbers, but I would imagine it's a pretty
precipitous.
dramatic.
Let's call it precipitous. Yes.
Yeah.
And, I started to think that because you end up, it strikes me, man, that's a lot of effort and work to get to a point where, you're going to, hide yourself away in your cabin in the woods for a month and slave over.
Turn your phone off.
Yeah, exactly. Drop out of society for all of these things. And I really started realizing, man, there's such I look at right now, between now and the end of the year, the strides that somebody could make if instead of slaving out trying to write a book traditionally, that we went through the process. The reason that we created the 90-minute book opportunity for people is to make it super easy for them so they didn't have to hold themselves away for 30 days dropping out of society. And
the whole counter to the traditional flow, the outcome that we're looking for as business owners is to start the conversation. Mm-hmm. And the way to start the conversation happens to be a book as the most effective way of doing it.
Right.
But to flip that and get caught up in the whole product being the book, in the traditional sense, it just kills so many people.
Yeah.
I recorded a podcast just before this one at the office with someone who's written five.
I'm going to look up something to share.
Look at the numbers. Mm-hmm. So I was recording with Chris before. Chris Carlson, he's written 5 books previously himself, not in a strictly traditional sense, but still not using us. And he said this process was the absolute easiest, most straightforward way to create the thing that gets him in conversation. Quicker, cheaper, faster, more to the point, given that the job of work is getting in conversation with potential clients. And I think the challenge that people have is that they say book and in their mind pops up a certain thing. And that certain thing is the traditional book, both in their outcome and the process. But the reality is the book just happens to be the most effective way to get into the conversation. And if you can shortcut that and not get caught up and bogged down in all of the traditional...
I went through this process where I've been doing these lead conversion workshops and lead generation workshops, lead getting workshops. And part of the thing that I share with everybody of getting leads is the most reliable number one thing is a book that has a title that your ideal prospects say, that's the book for me, right? So about 90 days ago, I launched on the lead getting workshop. I went through the process with people to show exactly how to do it, right? And show that you could do it in 30 days and get the whole thing settled. So I created a book called Convert More Leads: What to Say to Prospects So They All Convert Themselves, and conceived the idea by going through the book title formulas that we talk about. I'll talk about those in a second, but I went through that process with everybody and did the word palette and came up with that title, Convert More Leads: What to Say to Prospects So They All Convert Themselves. I had our designer, Glenn, do a wonderful cover where a guy's fishing with his hands behind his head and the fish are jumping in the boat, right? That's the greatest thing. You're out fishing and the fish are jumping in the boat, because that's metaphorically what we're doing. We want your ideal prospects to jump into the boat. And so in the last 60 days, we launched that, and we've generated 1,753 leads for $3.53 per lead for those ideal prospects, right? Now, that I look at it that if I'm coming into somebody's business and I want to generate leads on a long, on a sustainable basis, if they're serving this as a market that's going to be in business for the next, several years, that's the business that they're in. 100 weeks is the benchmark that I'd say. Is I looking to say, if we could generate leads for $300 or $500 or whatever it is. We just did a catalog with the bike shop here in Winter Haven, doing the same thing. We generating those leads for around 3 years. So you look at, for your business, whatever your business is, if you can reliably, for $300, fill a basket with 100 leads, 100 people who expressly and voluntarily raised their hand and said, is there any doubt that anybody who downloaded a book called Convert More Leads, what their desire is? It's pretty much, it does what it says on the tin, right? That's the thing.
There's no confusion about what they're getting. They're clearly expressing preference.
And especially, if somebody's putting together the e-bike catalog, the 2023 e-bike catalog, that's everybody, that's what they want, right? So thinking about this as a process to know that while all these people are hidden away in their hidey hole, writing 1,600 words a day, and many of them not going to get to the finish line, and chalk it up, maybe next year we'll do the same thing. But, while that's all happening, we could get into the process of identify your audience. What's the title of the book that they would definitely want? And it's, different if you're looking for invisible prospects or visible prospects. Either way, how it's only about how you reach them. And this is the perfect way for gathering invisible prospects. And we've done it for everything from medical things.
The A to Z. We've done accountants and we've done Zimbabwean outsourcers. So literally 1,000 books. Abby, thank you so much for coming on board, because that allows me to use that metaphor. Literally 1,000 books.
Yes.
There's not an industry that there's not an example for.
Right.
And to be able to pivot those titles to specifically your case within that. So there's more than one CPA book out there, but each one of them is targeting a slightly different group. There's more than one medical book out there, but targeting a separate group. It's that first job of work in the sequence is, as you say, getting people to raise their hand. I want that. And then the conversation starts. The book is just the mechanism for moving it, that minimum viable commitment, the next step in the chain. And to be able to do that in a way where other people are locking themselves away, trying to make this perfect piece before they even put it out in the world. It's like the Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until I smack him in the face. Well, get your book out there, let you get smacked in the face a few times by the real audience. And then...
So you look at these things, these bundles, we've got 1,753 people on the Convert More Leads, some of whom have already signed up for our lead conversion workshop, which is a $2,500 workshop, and others that we have that will move into other things, come into a live breakthrough blueprint or working with me one-on-one. So the idea of the way I look at it is, if we take 1,000 leads for $3,000, how many of those people over the next 100 weeks am I going to be able to help convert more leads? It's such an amazing thing. And then on the next go round, we're creating a book called Get More Leads. So the two bookends of what somebody could need for their business. They're either generating leads and they need to convert them, or they need to get more leads so that they're ready to launch the conversion process.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of challenge that people have because they come to the idea of a book, and a lot of people accept that it's a great lead generation tool, but then get stuck in this traditional mindset of, okay, well, a book is this thing that authors write away, locking themselves in a cabin, and it's difficult and challenging, and you kind of PTSD back to homework getting redlined from school and all of the challenge and trauma around it. I think so many people underestimate the value of just the knowledge that they've got from their day-to-day activities. I think because we're in the business every day, we undervalue just that basic conversation starting ways of thinking about things. So instead of thinking a book would be good, but I do need to lock myself away to get this award-winning piece created, instead just ask yourself, what are the questions that people ask when they stick their head in the door, or when they phone up customer support? Or
what do they need to know to get that process? This is where all part of the whole genesis of the self-milking cow came from.
Right.
That, years ago, I was running a mastermind group, and this was before we started 90-Minute Books. This was the genesis of 90-Minute Books, that I had figured out how to write books by recording and transcribing and editing. And that's how I did Stop Your Divorce was the first one that we did like that. And then I did a book about how we did Stop Your Divorce and a whole coaching program around that. But I was sharing that with the mastermind group, and then I was seeing people struggle with, it brought up so many technical blocks. Then, what do I record with, or how do I get this transcribed, and who's going to do the edit? How do I design the cover? All these questions that were coming up that caused delay.
Right.
And I still remember the original, I say it, Sean Phillips was in the mastermind group, Bill Phillips' brother. And did you ever meet Sean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you were part of that too. Yeah. And, he may be a guy who's more ADD than me, but he's super smart, knows so much stuff. Talk about what you were just saying, that it's all in there.
Yeah.
And so I was coming home from London. I did an event in London. I was landed back in South Carolina. I was going to play some golf with Mike Hardwick at Kiowa. And I woke up one morning early. I was like 5 a.m. because I was still on London time. I was kind of in a melatonin haze. And I was thinking about Sean. And I was thinking how, because I had just talked to him and he hadn't made any progress. And I realized he's got all the information. It's all in there.
Yeah.
He knows it. And if I could just hook a hose up to his brain and just suck all the information out. And all this, of course, is happening like quickly. Yeah. And the connections were made. I was thinking if I could just milk his brain. And then that created this visualization of him as a cow. And I realized in that world, it's not a dairy cow, but a idea cow, a money cow, cash cow.
Yeah.
And that really is what I thought, that he's trying, the frustration is he's trying to milk himself. And that's really where the idea of the self-milking cow came from. I immediately proposed to him that I would help him do the interview process. And that book is still on Amazon today. It's called The Owner's Manual to Your 40s.
Yeah.
And it still is, it's a great content.
Yeah. Sean and I have spoken a few times. I love the book. I know Sean, of Sean back from years ago, The Body of Life.
Yeah. Body for Life. Yeah.
Body for Life. Sorry. Yeah. He recorded a video with Bill, Body of Work. That's what I was thinking of. If anyone can find that, it's well worth watching. But you say that he's got the knowledge in his head because he's his own lived experience as he's gone from his 20s to his 40s.
Yeah.
And if someone was sat down with him, if they bumped into him in a coffee shop, got him talking about it for 10 minutes, he would be able to deliver such gems. So the same for all business owners out there. You know the stuff. The 5 questions that people ask, the things that they really should be asking instead, because those questions are probably not the real important pieces, the next steps that they can take. And even if you just take those 3 elements, 5 questions people ask, 5 things that they should really know or questions that they should be asking, and 5 action steps that people can take, creating a book that just had those things, don't have to think about it any more than that as a lead generation tool with the right title would fill the funnel, start the conversations for the whole next 3 years worth of business.
And that's all it is. That's what I really want to stress for people. If you look on the 90 Minute Books website, when we've got the 90-minute book we did a 90-minute book called the 90-minute book. Yeah. And people can get that at 90minutebook.com. And when you opt in for the 90-minute book, the first thing that we see is a video with me explaining the value of a small book, because so often the 2 things that I think stand in people's way of getting a 90-minute book is they think or perceive that they need to have a book, and that's the vision that they have, and it's gonna take a lot of time and effort to create that without really even knowing whether you've struck the right chord, right? And I'm not opposed to the big books, but I think that you can start. And we've had some people start with a 90-minute book as version 1 to get the idea to do the thing. Because what we've learned is it doesn't matter to people whether the book is 50 pages or 250 pages when they're presented with the offer of the book. Right? If we run, because most of the time we're doing Facebook ads, people see a cover. This is a book. I can download it right now. That's the offer. And I'm making 100% the decision on, am I interested in what the title of this book is?
Yeah.
Right? So when people see convert more leads, what to say to prospects so they all convert themselves, they say, I want that. And it doesn't make any difference whether that book is 50 pages or 250 pages for the job of work that we're hiring.
Because although both things can be called a book, both things are printed on paper and they're bound, the job of work of a book that you're buying off Amazon or from Barnes & Noble to be entertained, to read the actual content, that has to be a big book because you're competing with all of the other books out there. But the book where the job of work is to those people who download convert more leads, they want to know the secret to convert more leads. And if the answer was 1 sentence, tap your nose 3 times and then turn around counterclockwise, and that would, that would be, it's done its job.
Yeah.
So the idea that people get into this traditional mindset trap, the traditional trap, I'm going to call it that from now on, this traditional trap of thinking that they have to write something that competes with other things on Amazon, other things it's like people not wanting to start YouTube channels because they see Mr. Beast with 100 million followers and think,
well, you lowball him, he's got 200 million. Yeah, he works hard for those.
He does, yeah. But it's this idea of, unless it's that level of success, it's not worth it. When again, the job of work is completely different. And for people to hold themselves back from not getting started, of thinking that they need to wait till November, clear the calendar, lock themselves away, 1,600 words a day, just to get to an end point that may or may not hit the mark. The podcast that went live last weekend as we record this one today was with Kevin Burr. So his first book was kind of like a 20 ideas type book where he was just touching on the 20 points of building relationships with people. One of the 20 was around writing a bio, having a professional bio that you can give to people as an easy way for them to remember who you are and what you do. That idea, when he released the first book, all the feedback that he was getting was about that particular idea because it just hit the zeitgeist of his audience. So the second book that he wrote was specifically doubling down on that. And the amplification that he's getting, of the opt-ins that he's getting, of doubling down on that idea that resonated with the audience. We hear it all the time. People will come and they've spent months and tens of thousands of dollars on other projects that have either stalled or not gone anywhere or turned into a bit of a tar baby of work that they needed to do. When I look at what they've spent and the time that it's taken and thinking you could have done something so much more efficient, and even if, like you say, you then do go on to double down on that particular project and turn it into a more traditional book and try and get more traditional media to pick it up, starting off with the the first version that's out there and testing the audience in a quick and cost-effective way.
Yeah.
So much more productive.
It's so amazing, too, that sometimes we don't know what the market's going to respond to. You don't know what people... I've often, and I run into it sometimes. Not every book idea that I come up with is a crystal clear winner, but within 2 or 3 tries, I find one that is dramatically better. And that was, I just had that situation with a reverse mortgage book that, the book we came up with was a book called House Rich. And the difference that's the great thing about testing these things, of not writing them in stone, gives us an opportunity to experiment. Right. And that's kind of the whole thing. And there was a difference between House Rich with an exclamation mark and House Rich with a question mark, right? So the idea was joining people in the idea of one of our book title formulas is join the conversation that's already going on in their mind, right? Like I was just thinking that's the title. And so we've had a lot of success with these, how to know when something makes sense, right? So how to know when it makes sense to refinance, or how to know, in this case, when a reverse mortgage makes sense. And that was with the big subhead of House Rich, question mark, how to know when a reverse mortgage makes sense. Image of a house sitting on top of cash buried beneath the house, right? And that's been a winner. Unqualified winner, that we're able to generate those leads in the $10, $11 range. And I know that those, if we can, generate 100 of those leads and follow up with those people for 100 weeks, that it's going to be a multiple of the money. It's just stocking our pond with those. So it's funny because the, get more leads with the fish jumping in the boat is the second book in the series, but the get more leads is how to choose the words that get you all the leads you want. And it's the image of all these fish going off to the right side of the book, following a sign that says free worms this way. And they're all going off the book into the second book, which is then they're jumping in the boat, being converted. So I was pretty happy with the way that, I thought that was pretty clever, the way the series
But it's a great example of horse for sale type examples that does what it says on the tin, and not being clever, they're not being too ambiguous about what it is. It's just very specifically, here's the thing that you want, the conversation that's going on in your head already, here's the answer to that problem. Talking about 100 weeks, it's interesting then to think about the campaign after they've initially opted in, because I think that trips some people up as well. And thinking about the book as the start of the conversation, but then the long term, the 80 of people who convert over the longer term rather than the short term. That's why we're such a fan of podcasts, because just as it's easy to create a book based on your own knowledge, being asked questions that you immediately know the answers to, it's also easy to do a podcast where you're talking to people about the same subject, because anyone who's been in business for more than a year probably doesn't have a difficulty talking about the subject. But when you sit people down and say, okay, now you've got to write 52 emails to regularly send out to people and deliver them value, and either that or it's go to an aggregator and just get the same generic stuff that everyone else is doing, to be able to just simply record a podcast. And I mean, don't need quite such a fantastic studio as Juan's got here.
But if you can find one,
but if you're in Winter,
do it.
Come down to Dolphin Studio.
Or if you're anywhere in Central Florida, this is the place.
But even just doing it from Zoom at home, recording something that you can quickly and easily get that out to people in a weekly message. Here's the new podcast that we recorded, by the way, whenever you're ready, and here's the call to action. That's
been a great thing too, that's what we've been doing with the people, is we've been calling them milking sessions, where we'll do on Zoom, record people, set them up so that they can record their answers to create content from that, follow-up content. My goal is to get it so that people can just embrace their bovinity and just lean into being a cow and go out and make the milk and come in and get milked. Nobody ever has talker's block, right? And that's the greatest thing. That's the biggest secret, is that it's the asynchronous thing that kills people, is that setting off the time that they're going to try and do it on their own.
Yeah.
But having it synchronous and scheduled and involving other people is the power move. That's how you get the stuff done, right? It's not, if it was up to you just to organize everything and do it, nothing gets done.
With the best intention in the world, if this is a nice
I'm
to
that
have
way,
project,
myself included. Like, I have a very proven track record of not getting anything done when I don't have something synchronous and scheduled,
right.
But the most important things that I do when I think about it are synchronous and scheduled like that. I do the workshops I never miss.
Yeah.
The podcasts, when I've got guests, are on the thing, never miss. They're scheduled at a time. I've come, in that.
Because you're not competing against that bit of your brain that's trying to distract you with other things.
Right.
If it's there, someone else has arranged it, you just have to turn up. It's like going to the gym. We were just grabbing coffee before and bumped into Brooke, who's one of the owners of a waterside gym in Winshaven here. I used to regularly go to the gym when I was down here because it was in the calendar. I had it blocked off. I didn't have to think about going. It was just, I need to get out the door and rush down there. As soon as that schedule went, as soon as there was some variation in there, as soon as the details, that gym's not there anymore, I need to find the other one, and is it on this block or that block, or what time was the class? All of those things is just enough of a grain of sand to cog up the wheels, and then all of a sudden, this other thing's more important, I need to do this. So I think that trick of, I'm doing a lot more work now in LinkedIn than I've done before, and that's because I've working with another group of people and engaging them to keep me accountable and doing some of the work. The idea, I would have perfectly loved to have done this 7 years ago. It's not like it's a brand new idea when I suddenly discovered LinkedIn. It's just that every time I thought about it, something else came up. So having the calls with them scheduled, the work they were doing agreed, having not even so much the accountability, but the framework to make sure that it's done, it puts it on rails. And I think that's one of the big benefits of something like 90-minute books and something like the podcast that we do for people. It's scheduled and synchronous, it's in the calendar, it's not interrupted, and all you have to do is turn up. And like you say, there's no such thing as talker's block.
What do we have in terms of the book title workshop resource for?
Yeah, on the
people?
website, I'll link it in the show notes for this episode. But on the 90-Minute Books website, on the resource tab, there's 2 workshops in there. A book titles workshop, which we just updated that with a newer one, and then the outline workshop as well.
Is it a video, like a Zoom one, or an audio?
The titles one is a Zoom one that we did recently, and then the outline one is a little bit older. That's the conference call one. And then in addition to that, there's the book blueprint scorecard, which lists out the 8 building blocks of the book. So single target market, title, amplifying, subheading, call to action, outline, content, and then after the beyond the book elements. And then there's a whole host of videos that go with each of those modules. But that first step of picking the title, that book titles workshop, that's the Zoom call, where
I think that's the focus. So let's put a link in the email that we send about this to the book title workshop, because I know that as soon as somebody gets the title in their mind, that's the catalyst for getting that's the toughest thing, is coming up with that. So I know as soon as people get that idea, that we can launch into action to get the rest of it done. It'd be great to go into the new year with your book already in your hand, right?
2nd of November, in the time when all of these NaNoWriMo people are kind of locking themselves away, we can get the majority of it, from your perspective, done. The work that we need to do with you for the content, the conversation with the cover design guys who have cover design dialed in, all of that can be done within the next couple of weeks. And then we kind of take it and just do all of the work in the background. So come January the 1st, I mean, new marketing budget, put that towards some Facebook ads with this as the cookie to get people to opt in. It's the title. It's funny, this kind of traditional trap that people fall into. When I hear people talking about traditionally writing books, and then they'll write it all, and then it'll go to the publishing company, and then the publishing company will go back and forth on picking the title. And they talk about the tail wagging the dog. If the much more effective way for us as business owners with the job of work being starting conversations is the title is the first thing, the content then backs it up and makes the people who've requested it comfortable enough to then take the action step, take the next step. That's the path, not write it and then we'll work out what to do with it afterwards.
Amen. I love it.
Fantastic.
Well, I think we've said it all.
Yeah.
Let those other people hold themselves up in their hidey hole and get their book written in a month. But let's click on that link, watch the book title workshop, get that going, and then we're ready to help you start your book and run into the new year with a whole stock your pond full of the right prospects for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Very exciting.
It is. Perfect.